At first, staying felt like effort, like something I had to remember to do, something I had to choose again and again. But somewhere along the way, staying stopped being the focus, and something else started to happen. Things began to reveal themselves, not because I was looking for them, not because I was ready, but because I wasn't leaving anymore. When you stay long enough, experience starts to speak for itself. What I noticed first is how much of my life used to happen just beneath my awareness. Reactions rising before I knew they were there. Assumptions forming before I questioned them. Emotions moving through my body without ever being felt directly. Staying doesn't stop those things. It lets me see them, and seeing them changes the relationship. I notice how quickly identity tries to form, how fast the mind reaches for something solid. A role, a position, a story about who I am in this moment. Even discomfort wants a name. Even uncertainty wants to belong to something. Staying reveals that impulse, not as a flaw, but as a survival pattern. The mind wants ground, and when there is none, it tries to create it. When I stay, I see how often certainty arrives not as truth, but as relief. A way to stop the tension, a way to feel safe again. But safety built too quickly is usually borrowed. Borrowed from old ideas, old identities, old explanations. Staying lets that borrowing become visible. Another thing that reveals itself is how the body knows before the mind. Tension appears before the thought arrives. Breath changes before words form. There's information there that used to be ignored, not because it was subtle, but because I wasn't listening. Staying slows the moment enough for the body to speak. I notice how emotions behave when they're not managed, when they're not redirected, when they're not explained away. They rise, they peak, they move. They don't ask for solutions. They ask for presence. That revelation changes everything, because it means I don't have to fix what I feel to be okay with feeling it. Staying also reveals patterns of control, the urge to regulate experience, to shape it into something acceptable, to make it match who I think I should be. That urge is quiet. It hides behind reason, behind improvement, behind growth. But when I stay, I can see it, and seeing it loosens its grip. Another thing that becomes clear is how often attention fragments, how quickly it jumps ahead, how often it replays what just happened. Staying gathers attention, not by force, but by invitation. When there's nowhere else to go, attention returns on its own, and in that return, something steadies. I also begin to notice how much effort was being spent on maintaining coherence, holding together an image, keeping reactions consistent, making sure I made sense. Staying reveals that coherence is often a performance. And when the performance drops, nothing actually collapses. Life continues. Breathing continues. Presence remains. There's relief in that. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from realizing nothing needs to be held together as tightly as I thought. Staying doesn't make things fall apart. It shows what was never as solid as it appeared. I notice how thought changes when it's observed instead of followed. Thought still happens, but it doesn't dominate. It becomes one movement among many, and that changes the internal hierarchy. Thought no longer speaks for everything. Another revelation is how rarely I used to be here, how often I lived one step removed, interpreting instead of sensing, predicting instead of noticing. Staying closes that gap. Experience becomes direct again, unfiltered, not dramatic, just immediate. There's also discomfort in this, not because something is wrong, but because habits lose their footing. Old reflexes don't disappear. They just stop feeling necessary. That in-between can feel strange, like learning how to stand without leaning. Staying reveals how much trust is required. Not trust in ideas, trust in experience. Trust that whatever arises can be met. That trust doesn't arrive as belief. It arrives as repetition. Staying again, until something relaxes. I begin to see that awareness isn't something I do. It's something that happens when interference slows. That realization is subtle, but it's foundational. It means awakening isn't an achievement. It's a revealing. Staying also shows me how compassion changes form. It's no longer something I apply. It becomes something that emerges when resistance drops. When I stop leaving myself, there's no one left to judge. Only experience unfolding. I notice how silence changes. It's no longer empty. It's textured, full of sensation, full of movement, full of life. Staying allows silence to become inhabited. There's also humility here, because staying reveals how little control I actually have. and how unnecessary that control was. Things move without my permission. Feelings resolve without my input. Understanding arrives when it's ready, not when I demand it. I see how identity loosens. Not disappears, loosens. Roles feel less binding. Definitions feel less urgent. There's room to not know, and that room feels alive. Staying reveals that awareness is patient. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand progress. It simply keeps noticing. And over time, that noticing reorganizes everything. I still leave sometimes. I still get pulled into thought, into reaction, into habit. But now I see the leaving, and that seeing is already a form of return. What staying begins to reveal isn't something new. It's what was always here, waiting for space, waiting for attention, waiting for permission to be felt directly. This isn't clarity in the traditional sense. It's familiarity, a sense of being at home in experience, even when experience is uncomfortable, even when nothing is resolved. If you're here, noticing more, but not knowing what to do with it, nothing has gone wrong. You're not behind. You're not missing a step. You're seeing what becomes visible when staying becomes possible. You don't need to hold on to this. You don't need to understand it. Just notice what continues to show itself when you don't rush away. That noticing is already enough. And for now, that's what staying reveals.